Hey! Oh, this feels weird just looking at my cell phone camera. I'm gonna miss you, Dion. Dion, I'll miss you. Hey, everybody. It's Wednesday. You know what that means. It's Water Cooling Wednesday. And we are here. Well, I am here. So it's not, Dion is not actually here. It's like the ghost of Dion is here. Are they going to be able to hear you? You can talk to me in the chat if you want to. But anyway, Dion's not really feeling that great today. So we thought it would be a good idea if she preserves her voice a little bit and some of her energy as well. So she is here with us in spirit, though. So I don't know, you might hear some stuff from her chiming in because y'all know how she chime in. So happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome again to Water Cooler Wednesday, where we come with your real estate, real talk every week at 6 o'clock Chicago time. I am Lisa, and I'm introducing who is here by spirit, Dion, Dion Branch of eXp Realty and the Allure Dream Homes. And I'm Lisa White, the House Money Mama with Nexa Lending, where we're here for all your mortgage and financing needs in real estate. So today we want to talk about October, why it's a smart time to buy or sell. So this is our fall market frenzy. This is the time when the leaves are changing, things are adjusting, new season, new weather, new scenery, new outlook, new mindset, everything new, right? So we want to talk a little bit about that in regards to how that's factoring into our real estate market. So one of the things that's important to remember is that, we have obviously our own trends happening in this local market of Chicago, the city of Chicago, suburban areas. And so we want to talk a little bit about that today. Like, for example, we do have in our areas, typically around this time of year, what happens is most people, they've been really aggressive. So they wanted to get a house before it was time for children to go back to school. They working at it. And you have some people that they didn't quite meet that goal. So those people may have dropped out of the race, the home ownership race, right? So they may be putting it off until next spring. Then they'll come back around again and try another time. So they're kind of out. They're not our competition anymore. But then you also have usually around this time of year where typically it's actually the reverse of that. Normally, let me say it the other way. So we typically have it where it's the less competition, so we can do like more negotiating because we have a lot of people dropping out. So this year, even though we have had some people that have dropped out of the race for homeownership, but we don't quite have it as much as it typically would be. Let's say it like that. So what we are seeing this year is that we're a little bit different than what our normal market would actually be. So usually it'll be less competition around this time, and that way you would have more negotiation power, right? Because people are dropping out. And so now you can say, okay, well, it's not 20 other people exactly lined up to buy your house, Mr. Seller. So I think you should just take my offer. And they may negotiate with you, say, well, yeah, you're right. There's only 10 people right now, so I guess I can take your offer. But usually around this time of year, sellers are motivated. The reason why is because with the change that we're having in the season, we have the holidays coming up on us. Most people don't want their house to sit through the winter. We're not in Florida or Arizona where you got the hot weather all year round. So really, most people don't want to winterize the homes. Most people don't want to wait through another winter season because that's basically November, December, January, February, and then they may put the house back on the market again, maybe like around March. So that's 4 months where the house is really just sitting there. and nothing is happening with it at all. So a lot of times sellers, they don't really want to do that. They wanted to sell the house, so they prefer to sell it this year. They don't want to have to spring over into next year and wait to be able to sell it. So this is a time when you still will see, even though the competition might be the same, or maybe not as less as what we would have liked, but you still will see that sellers are going to be more motivated, excuse me, because of the fact that before the holidays, they want to get rid of the house. So the cool thing about that is a plus for you, because now you can lock in before winter prices begin to increase. You know, because once you get to a point in the market where you have the serious buyers, they're going to buy. They're adamant. They're going to buy. You know, anybody who's coming out in the wintertime looking for a house, they are a serious buyer. They are ready to buy. They are determined. Come, you know what, or high water. I'm not going to say the word, but they are going to buy a house because these are your very serious buyers. So you don't really want to be in competition with them because they are so serious, because they are so aggressive. But right now, you can kind of lock in before those things start to happen, where you got winter rates, price increases, because people are anticipating those really aggressive buyers being around. So now you don't really have that. So this is a good time to step in and to step up your game. So if you miss the whole rush before school starts, or if you missed what happened over the past few months for the summer, we didn't really have the greatest activity over the summer this past year in 2025. We actually had it was a little bit slow. I think that Dione would agree. Other professionals and colleagues that we've talked to over the past few months have all kind of experienced the same things. What I'm thinking probably happened is that people were waiting. They were waiting for interest rates and expecting that they would be able to time the market and see what the feds were going to do as far as dropping interest rates. So we can talk about that. So we can discuss that right now, since we kind of segue into it anyway. In September, the feds did meet, and just so we're clear, the feds are not actually dropping or raising interest rates for mortgages. But when they play around with the overnight exchange rate, that does have a correlation to mortgage interest rates. Now, sometimes it can have a correlation where when the overnight exchange rate decreases, that mortgage rates also decrease. Sometimes it can have the reverse effect, where mortgage rates will actually increase when that overnight rate decreases. So it really kind of depends on, some other economical factors as to whether or not we'll see a decrease in the mortgage interest rates when the feds make the changes in the rate for the overnight exchange rate. So let me tell you what happened in September. They did actually make a decrease in interest rates, quarter of a point, 25 basis points. So it did move. The thing about that is we kind of already had that factored into our rates. So for us, as the mortgage industry, we didn't really get a quarter of an interest rate point drop in our rates, just the overnight rate change, but our rates really weren't that much impacted. So, not anything that would be a foreseeable benefit for you as a consumer. So just something to keep in mind. I think that a wise person once said, you can never time the market. Never. Many people have tried, but I guarantee you, if I had a crystal ball to know how to time the market and when things would happen, what would go up, what would go down, how things would be impacted for the economy, I would not be originating mortgage loans. I would be somewhere on the beach giving my suggestions about what to do because of everything that I know. So, and I'm sure anybody else that knew that, they would do the same thing. So we do get some people that sometimes just using data, logic, different things like that, they make some pretty good educated guesses. But the bottom line is that nobody can really time the market. So even though we did have interest rate reduction on the overnight rate, we didn't really get a huge impact on mortgage rates. So people that were waiting, mm, they might have been a little bit disappointed because you didn't quite get what you were hoping for. Yeah, and that's unfortunate. But the way the market works, what goes up is always going to come down. It's a one big cycle. I always think of it that way. It's just one big giant cycle. It goes around and around and around and around. Sometimes it stays in places longer than at other times. But the bottom line is that it's all, if you wait it out long enough, you'll always see a full entire cycle that'll go completely around. Okay, so enough about the market and interest rates in and of themselves as far as the Feds. So let's talk a little bit about our local market. So here in Chicago in the suburban area. So having less listings usually means you're going to have still have motivated buyers. Okay. Because they, I don't know, I think people start to feel a sense of urgency that they've been looking and looking and looking. And because they've been looking so long, they're expecting to see some kind of traction. You know, something got to happen. Something got to happen. So they're looking for it. And they're expecting to have, you know, a certain level of expectation. So interest rates right now, like I just mentioned, you know, they're pretty much hovering around the same. But that does have an impact on how people are making decisions. So what I would say is that don't wait for spring, because smart buyers and smart sellers are moving right now. They're not going to wait. I can tell you that within almost anything that you do, usually the longer you wait to make a decision, the less favorable the outcome is going to be. So you do need to decide. Like, decide you're going to buy the house, decide you're going to sell the house, decide you're going to make changes, decide you're going to become more aggressive. You do need to make a decision. So today, let's just be decisive. So let's talk about a few things for how sellers, because we want to talk about both today. The fall market frenzy is not just about buyers, but it's also about sellers too. So for our sellers, we know you're motivated because the holidays coming up. You don't want to be the one responsible for hosting Thanksgiving again. So, or if you do, you want to do it in your new home, not in the old home. So let's talk about some things that you can do that will help you to more beautifully show off the fall curb appeal. So one of the things that people usually are thinking about is you want to rake up the leaves. You know, doesn't sound like a big thing, but you know, if you put yourself back in the mindset of when you were looking for a house, not everybody has the same ability. Like Dione, I love this about Dione. She is great about being visual. So she can go and look at something, and whatever she sees, she doesn't just see for what's in front of her, but then she also sees what it could potentially be. Not everybody has that. No, I don't have it. So I know for a fact that not everybody has that ability. So keep in mind, put yourself in the mindset of a buyer. You know, when they're coming and they're going to look at your home, you know, if things are not in order, then it might be hard for them to be able to see what it could potentially be, what it could look like, you know, how beautiful the sidewalk looks against the grass, you know, because there's no leaves there covering everything up, you know, or how pretty the lawn is. And, you know, it feels more like home when it looks a certain way. So being able to rake the leaves, even adding seasonal decor. If you guys looked at the what we use, you know, for actually being able to advertise and, you know, had, like, I forget what they call it, but actually be able to advertise, we had a picture of a house that had pumpkins on it. And now they should have raked. They had leaves all over the place. But their display of the pumpkins and then, you know, the different colors of the leaves and everything, it gave it a certain appeal. It had that fall, you know, that autumn feel to it just by looking at the picture. Well, same thing. When somebody pulls up in front of your house, then they want to see, you know, a pretty inviting decorum. They want to see walkways clear. And not only that, but walkways being clear is not only important for how it looks, but that's a safety thing. So you want to make sure that you make it easy and for things to be accessible. You want to make sure that you make it hard for somebody to fall or say they fell. So that's going to be important too. And then another suggestion would be warm scents. So for, we walk past the lawn, we see how pretty it is. We walked up the sidewalk and into the house. And what's the first thing that happens? Most of the times, the first thing that people notice is how they feel. And that feeling has to do with our senses. So one of the things we feel when we walk in, we can feel warmth. You can walk in. Have you ever walked into a house or walked into a room and you immediately felt at home, or you immediately felt a sense of warmth, or a sense of welcoming? So you can actually kind of stage that the way you set up with the scent. So you have a nice scent, a nice warm scent that people can smell when they walk in, and the lighting. How you have the lighting set up. You don't want it super bright. You want it maybe a little more dim, just so that it's calming. If you want to get more like you don't want people to come into your house and feel uptight. Like if you notice when you're at work, lights are really bright. When you're in the office, the lights are really bright. That's because they want you to be in that mindset that, I got to get things done. Well, you don't want people to feel like that. When they come into your house, you want them to feel at home. You want them to feel cozy. You want them to feel, like, this is nice. I could see myself here. That's what you want to get. So that's a curb appeal, lighting, scents, the way you stage, keeping walkways clear, the seasonal decor, raking the leaves. All of those things are going to play into how well you're presenting. Now, actually, I think we have a curb appeal checklist. If you want it, make sure you go ahead and send us a message down in the DM or in the comments. You can say curb appeal, and then we'll send you out the checklist so you can have that as you're getting your home ready to list. Now, another thing that you could do would be, before you go, to put the house on the market, have some inspections done. Extremely important. So, for example, one of the things that people will usually look at is the big thing, because most people, because I know I don't really know nothing about this stuff, but I would definitely want, the top and the bottom. So that's going to be the roof. I want to know what's going on with the roof. I want to know what's going on with the basement, because I don't want my roof caving in or have to take some money and put toward replacing the roof. And I don't want water coming into my house because the basement is not sound and I don't have a solid foundation, and we don't have, enough where you don't have anything coming in, around the sides of the basement, where the I can't think of the word that I want to use, but y'all know what I'm talking about, so it don't even really matter. Anyway, you don't want to skip those inspections. You want to make sure you inspect the roof. You want to make sure that you inspect the gutters. You want to make sure that you inspect the furnaces. All those kind of things are going to matter, because when people come in, that's one of the things they're going to think about. Even people who don't really know a lot about houses. You got contractors and things like that come out, but just somebody who's even a novice that doesn't know a lot about houses, they want to make sure the basement ain't going to flood. I don't want to be down there with my wet back sucking up no water. I don't want to do that. I don't want Tom and Jerry coming inside my roof in the middle of winter. I don't want that. So people know that those are the kind of things that they do not want. So those are going to be really important. You want to be able to tell your potential buyers, hey, look, we have the roof inspected, we have the gutters cleaned out, the furnace is in good condition. My HVAC is clear. When it's time for summer, you're not going to have any problems with the air conditioner, because it's going to be all set and ready to go. Those seasonal kind of issues, they really do matter. So just a big suggestion as you're preparing for somebody else to be able to come in and potentially buy your home, don't skip the inspection. Still make sure you do it. Okay. So as far as buyers, let's talk a little bit about what kind of things that you should be thinking about when it comes to the fall frenzy. We talked about the things that the sellers need to do, but now let's talk about some of the things that you may need to do. So if you are buying, if you're planning to buy, then it's going to be a good idea for you to do. Our viewers and listeners should already know this. It's the P word, the P word, the P word. Prepare. So you do want to make sure that you are prepared and ready to go out. And you also want to make sure, like kind of what I mentioned earlier, that your mindset don't be surprised about about needing to be more aggressive at this time of year. This is the time to do it because now you have a countdown happening. Just like how the new year is going to come, they're going to drop the ball. They're going to be counting down to the end of 2025, and then the new 2026 will be here. Well, you should be having a countdown in your own mind that the end of this rental season is done, and now we're counting down to be in the ownership season. So keeping in mind that as you're looking at the different things going on in the market, interest rates are actually pretty good right now. I can definitely say that excuse me, because even though the feds didn't really do what we wanted them to do to impact our rates, but I have got plenty of lenders that they want to see people buy. So they've made some adjustments to rates. I've been locking people. Let me think. Who did I look up today? Because this was for a purchase. Yeah. So we've got a couple of contracts right now. And some of these people that are coming in, they're going to have interest rates in the very low sixes, like a 6.125 or even maybe a 5.9%, so right around that area, that we're doing good. Because around this time last year, you were probably about what? Maybe not quite a point higher, but probably 5/8 higher than where we are right now as far as the interest rates go. So knowing that you have the ability to get into the house that you really want to get into, and you are not going to wait, because waiting causes more for you to have to do, and it causes more for you to have to spend. If I had I should have probably prepared one, but I didn't know I was going to say all this. But when you think about finding a house that you really love, this is the one you walked into it, you felt at home. This is where you want to live. Okay. When that happens, and if you wait and lose that house, first, let's talk about one thing. I believe that the average for appreciation of real estate is about, it's either 4.3 or 5.2 per year. So that means every year, the likelihood of the house that you have gaining value and going up in price and going up in value, that's going to happen pretty much every year. Now, don't get me wrong, I'll never say always to anything, because there's always possibilities, for that to not be true, that there could be a down market where you see values go down, but that is extremely rare. Normally, what we're going to see is values consistently rise every year. So with that being the case, if you have a house that you're looking at right now, say maybe it's $250,000, and then you say, well, I really want to wait because I think the interest rates can be lower. I think I can do better than just a 6.125, and I want to get a 5.875 or something like that. Okay, that's great. You want to be about 0.25% lower. So it's a couple of ways we can handle that. One, you can always buy down a rate. If you just really want a rate to be lower, you can always pay extra money, because it is going to cost, and you can buy down the interest rate. You can do a temporary rate buy down, or you can do a permanent rate buy down. Either one. The costs are different between which one you want to do. But the other thing to think about is, if you wait, let's just say, well, I don't want to buy down the rate. I should be able to just get the rate that I want. Okay. So now you wait. So now you don't get the house that you want for $250,000. So let's just say you wait a year down the line. And instead of that house now being $250,000, maybe the rates went down. Maybe the rate is 5.875 now. But now, instead of the house being 250, maybe now the house is $275,000. So you're spending actually that 5.875 that you thought was going to be so great. It was great on a $250,000 house. But as far as savings, if you did a side-by-side comparison, you actually end up spending more with a lower interest rate, but a higher loan amount. Numbers don't lie. So why am I saying that? Because it's critical to act now. Do not wait. If you already know that you want to be a homeowner, you already know or think that you're ready or could quickly get ready, we can help you get ready if you're not ready yet. And we can let you know a time frame that you would need to, fall into. But if you already know that that's what you want to do not wait. That house might not even come back around. Next year, you might be looking for something like, the house that I saw last year, I really, really like that house. How come I can't find another house like that? Because you missed your opportunity. That's why. You should have bought it then, married a house, and date the rate. Because there's a little thing called refinancing that we can always do as long as you qualify and can afford the monthly payment, and we can just lower your interest rate. I'm doing that for people right now. Just rate and term refinances. I have people that closed their house, a year ago, 2 years ago, and their interest rates are in the high sixes, like 6.625, 6.875, 7%. And so now I'm getting into interest rates is 5.625 or 5.875. Whatever that might be. But the point is, they might have paid that higher interest rate on the lower loan amount, because remember, they didn't wait to buy their houses. They paid the higher interest rate on a lower loan amount for a year. But now that we're refinancing them, now that means that they're going to be able to pay a lower interest rate on that same house that they really loved. So that's a good story. So now they can save, $100, maybe $200 a month. Depends. Everybody's scenario is a little bit different. But I just wanted to say that, mention that to you today so you can have the mindset of a home owner. You are not a renter any longer. And for those of you that are out there ready to sell and get into your new home, we can help you with listing, and we can also help you as far as getting ready to buy and move into your next home. We actually do have some very unique programs. So sometimes people need to buy before they sell. We can help you with that. Sometimes people need help with. Dione is great for stuff like this, with staging, getting your house ready for people to be able to come by and view it and really want to buy. So you can always call Dione 773-819-6092, and she'll be more than happy to help you with things just like that, so you can get your home listed, and then also to get you into your new home. Then I, of course, would be helping with the financing. So when you're ready to buy, whether you're selling first and then going to buy, or whether you're buying for the first time, coming out of renting, I can help you with the financing for that. 630-977-6150 is my number. And we are at the end of another Water Cooler Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you, Dione. She might not be saying anything, but she right on top of it all. Thank you. I miss being able to talk to you today, though. This was so weird without you. She'll be back next week, though. I told her she needs to drink some apple cider vinegar. She'll be right as rain. She'll be good. So we'll see y'all next week. Thank you, everybody.